Hello, everyone, and welcome to this professional development training. My name is Stephanie. I'm your host and founder here at the Intentional IEP, and I'm so excited to be here with Christine Miles today. We're going to be talking all about teaching listening skills. And when Christine's team reached out to me about the listening path, which we're going to get to, I was like, there are some adults that actually need help with this. So I think this would be a great training because when we as adults learn these skills, we can in turn teach our students and our own kids these listening skills. So it's a win-win-win. Before we dive into all of the listening good stuff, though, Christine, will you please share about you, your teaching experience, and anything else you want to add in?
Yeah, I am a teacher, but I'm a teacher of adults more than I am a teacher of children throughout my career. I started my career as a family therapist at 22. I went knocking on people's doors. So I have a background in psychology, and then I got my master's in education in psychology. So I've worked with families and schools and teachers, and then I've also trained a lot of teachers as well as adults. So I think I commented before we started, I always wanted to play office more than I wanted to play teacher, but all I've ever done my entire life is educate. But I have great respect for the kind of teaching your audience does. Being in the classroom with little children all day is, insurmountable from my perspective. And so everything I've done in the last year has really been with that in mind. So as we reach a different audience.
Well, I am excited to talk all about listening skills and dive in, and then we will eventually get to you teaching us more about what the listening path is and all of that. But let's start at the base. Let's do
Okay.
a good baseline. My special education teacher is kicking in. Let's get a good baseline. Why
Yeah.
are listening skills important for students to learn? And are there different types of listening skills that we have to learn?
Well, so listening is important for lots of reasons. My contention is it's most important for learning more than anything. Does it help with behavior management? Absolutely. Does it help with social emotional? Absolutely. Are these core functions? Absolutely. However, we learn 85% of what we learn through listening, and we're not teaching that primary skill. There's all kinds of research that comprehension and learning goes up when we do teach listening skills. So, at the heart of this, and I'm a late to life diagnosed dyslexic. So I was midlife before I was told I was dyslexic, and I was like, that's pretty helpful to know that. But I navigated because I listened well, and that's how I learned because other things I didn't comprehend naturally. So through my skill of listening is how I really overachieved relative to my very average abilities otherwise. So I want to bring that forth to kids for the same reason.
I love it. Well, how do we help students learn these listening skills? What are listening? Is it just listening or
Yeah.
they're like verbal cue
Yeah.
listening? Like,
Yeah. Well, you asked about the different types of listening.
yeah,
So there's behaviors and then there's ways to understand. So we need certain behaviors to get to understanding. The problem is, even little or old, our brains are the enemy of listening. And so we know that in the IEP world that kids, their brains are wired differently than most kids on the average, right? But we're all wired not to listen. That's the moral of the story. Some of us have more interference than that than others. So we have to move beyond behavior because listening is a skill. So that's the level set. So there's paying attention, listen to instructions, and there's listening to find the meaning or the understanding. And what we're focused on, and I've been focused on in my career, is finding the understanding or the deeper meaning or message behind the words. And that leads you to paying better attention.
I love that because, and I'm going to throw my dad under the bus because he
Me
won't mind.
too.
I am his spitting image, but he very much listens to respond and doesn't listen to understand. And so we often have to repeat things and we have to be like, chill, dad, like, hold on, listen to what I'm saying first. Just
Yeah.
listen, and then you can respond. So it is a very helpful skill. And I do find that a lot of adults, and me too, like there are times when I'm like, oh, quick, let me respond real quick before I'm actually listening
Yeah.
to things.
That's
So
not nobody's fault.
yeah,
So let me do some education here if I may.
yeah.
So I'm not a neuroscientist, but I've studied this and researched this in terms of understanding what's going on in the brain. So there's the conscious brain. These are the things we're aware of. If you look at an iceberg, that's what's on top of the water, very small
Yeah.
portion of the brain. the real superpower is what's under the water in the iceberg, and that's our subconscious. If we go down to the Freud level, go to psychology, there's the unconscious, but most of our brain is in the subconscious, which is what's in control, and that's an impetuous child pulling us away. Our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own impulses, all that we're not aware of is what's in charge and why we're not listening or we're listening to respond.
Yeah.
So the tools help calm the subconscious brain, and the skill building gets more practice of that. So if I said, Stephanie, go run a marathon, you wouldn't just go out and run the marathon. You'd probably run a
Right.
few miles, right?
Yeah.
So we're told to listen, not taught. So we're basically throwing everybody into a marathon race and they've never run a mile. And that's why as adults, we form these habits and we're not sure how to get out of them. So we need to form the habit and the skill very, very early. And I call it a language of listening versus behaviors of listening, because the language helps us level set of how to do it and how to build the skill.
I love the analogy of if I tell you to go run a mile, or a marathon, you're going to maybe start with a mile. You're going to build your way up there. And I forget, I just had a conversation with another teacher about something. She was like, "How do I get my students to do this?" And I said, "You have to teach them how to do it. You can't just tell them to do it and expect them." So that goes with anything that we're working with our students on. We have
Yeah,
to model it, but to be able to model it, we have to know how to do it ourselves first. So teaching is a lot of intrinsic work at the same time
it
that we're
is.
teaching.
It is. And it's too much to expect teachers to teach how kids how to listen when they haven't been taught themselves. My belief is that inherently teachers are wired a little, not everybody, but by and large, to be more caring and to be more empathetic and to listen differently than maybe the average. That doesn't mean they have the skill down or they know how to articulate it. Like, I can throw a football and so can Tom Brady, but he probably has a few little bit more language around how to do it properly. you know. So, I mean, I like to think I can throw a ball pretty well, but but the intricacies of it and what it means, teachers haven't been taught that either. So they're focused on, only 2% of people have had in the world have had any kind of listening training,
Oh,
let
wow.
alone, yeah, it's pretty significant. In fact, I have a master's in psychology from Penn, University
Yeah.
of Pennsylvania, a certificate in marriage and family therapy systems therapy from a world-renowned institution at the time, 0 years of formal education on listening.
I've never been taught how to listen. Yet it's the standards. Like if you look up the Common Core, we have listening and speaking standards that we have to teach our students. Like they have to meet those standards. But I don't ever remember there being like, that's not a part of the curriculum.
No. And I appreciate you
Interesting.
saying this. And this is why when I decided it was time that we figure out a way to teach children and not just adults, and maybe I was a little frustrated with adults because they have such bad habits. I always say you want to learn to ski at 45 or 5. Let's start at 5. You're
Yeah.
fearless, right? So is that I wanted to make sure I brought something to schools where they own that, and so that every child had access to listening education. That to me was so important, and rather than just whoever could get it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's true. Every sales training I've ever done, 30, they tell you the first thing you have to do is listen to the customer, but what they don't tell you is how to do it. So what you just described is a common problem throughout every educational factor, from elementary school to high school to college to corporate training.
Wow. I'm whew, like mind blown. Yes. Now that you think about it, like, and I'm sure there's other teachers and parents listening and to this right now, and they're like, that makes so much sense. It all like tracks and connects, and now it makes so much sense.
Well,
Well,
and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
This is a historical problem. So, since ancient Roman times, we have been teaching oratory skills and taking and assuming listening skills. They've always been overvalued. The researchers call the listening skill the Cinderella of the communication skills. It's kind of like stuck in the castle,
Uh-huh.
just assuming it's there and it's going to work.
Huh.
Where we've been focused on the speaking and that's, how do you get good at something? Well, you talk about it, you learn how to articulate it, you learn what to say, you learn how to write. It's
Yeah.
than how to what do I understand and comprehend through a listening process, if you will. So because we've only ever taught one thing, we're not sure how to flip the paradigm.
Well, how do we help students learn these listening skills then, and adults, because we all
Yeah.
need.
Yeah. Well, so I believe that in terms of bringing listening education into the classrooms, I think we have to help the teachers and the parents and caregivers as well as the students. So remember, I have a systems background, so I believe in system solutions. So, so it's about the kid, but it's also just like you, which is why I love your messaging. It's about the team around the child, not just the child themselves. Because when I worked with families, it was really about the child's behavior being a symptom of how the family organized around that symptom or other things that were happening. So you and I are very aligned in terms of that systemic approach. So how do we teach it? We need to create the common language. And the first step is to do exactly what you're doing, which is you can't fix a problem you don't know you have. So I saw the light bulb go, oh,
Yeah.
we don't teach this, but it's part of our core curriculum. So we have to make it part of our core curriculum. And then we have to create that common language in the simplest and most engaging and fun way as possible. Because it's supposed to be fun. Listening is a
Yeah.
process of discovery. It's every day is when you're listening differently, you're discovering and discovering and discovering and discovering.
Oh, I love this because I love learning new things and I love learning about the world around us, like the things. My husband and I were actually talking about it this weekend. He works in the trucking world. And so we were driving somewhere and we're talking about all the different trucks on the road, like the big trucks. And I'm like, if you were not in trucking, I would know nothing about this world. And so we were passing over a bridge or something and they were doing construction. So we were talking about engineers. And he's like, well, yeah, there's all different types of engineers. And I'm like, oh, well, I only ever envisioned like bridge engineers. But
Yeah,
there's like he works with engineers in his job. There's like it's oh, that's a whole world I know nothing about, and I'm fascinated.
yeah, yeah. And the less you know, the more sometimes we want to know. The problem
Yeah,
is that when we're close to something, we forget to look at it. Like I live near Philadelphia, and I always say I don't go to the Liberty Bell anymore. Like I've seen it a few times.
yeah,
So curiosity goes down the more closer we are to something.
it's true.
So how do we become curious? Like the teacher in the classroom says, listen up, pay attention. Kids' curiosity to that directive goes down the more
Yeah,
said. So how do we flip that, right? Yeah.
yeah. Well, what before we get into the listening path and all of this that you've built, what's your favorite personal technique, I guess, or strategy to use with adults or kids, uh,
Yeah.
or teaching listening?
Yeah. So here's something, pardon me, parents can do and teachers can do right away. There's there's a one of the tools. So the path is based on you wouldn't go hiking in the woods unprepared. And we
Right.
go into the conversational woods all the time unprepared.
Yeah.
So the path you see behind me are the tools. So there's one tool on the path that's called the compass. It's how do you get the speaker or the person to tell you more of their story? Uh,
Mhm.
and so, because when you're listening, you're always listening to a story. So that's the first thing, first tip. If your kid says, you say, how was your day? They say, good, you're dropped into a story. If you say, honey, how was your day? Boom, you're dropped into a story. The problem is we don't know that. And so
Yeah.
we don't know how to get the story because people are terrible storytellers and we rely on the speaker rather than the listener. So the listener's in charge. The listener's in charge of getting the story. They're the one in the control of the conversation when you learn the skill. You don't have to wait for the speaker to tell you their story in a way you understand. You get them to tell you the story in a way you understand. Even in classrooms, if the kid
Yeah.
is confused or not certain, there's a way to guide the teacher to help them do it in a way that everybody can understand differently. So one of those tools is a compass, and there's 5 questions on the compass to get the story because you have to navigate the path to understanding. And one
Yeah.
of the most powerful questions, and I just saw a video from Danielle Pink that talked about this is my cat in the very corner,
Oh, it's all good.
um, is tell me more.
Yeah.
So parents say to me a lot of times, my kids don't talk to me about their day. Just try tell me more when you get the good.
Yeah.
It may not work the first time, it may not work the second time, but just keep doing it until, and then one day something's going to happen, or right away something's going to happen. Tell me more helps you level set to get more of that story.
Mhm.
It's a very, very powerful tool on the path.
I will say I have team members of mine here on Mrs. D's Corner and the Intentional IEP, and they'll come to me with different ideas for things. And that is something that I do. So it makes me really proud that I am like kind of using it
Yeah.
because I am very much like, I want all the details. Like, where was your brain thinking? Like, what exactly were you thinking when you were doing this? I want to be in your brain with you. So I'm like, tell me more. Like, what
Yeah.
were you envisioning? So I love that. And that, I want to kind of like pat myself on the back a little bit
Good.
because
Can I give you one
that's,
more that's going to help
yeah.
you make it more since you're talking? Because so there's four stops on a story. This is the set one of the tools. So you're listening to a story, there's four stops, and most people start in the middle,
Okay.
not the beginning. But
Hmm.
most people don't know that. Okay. So what you're trying to do is tell me what you're thinking, tell me where what you're actually saying is take me back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So just ask that. Can you
Yeah.
think about where did this start? And their brains will click in different. Now you get them in story mode in their
Okay.
subconscious brain. So
Yeah.
it's like watching a movie starting at the middle. It's like, uh-oh, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So you're confused and you're using confusion as a friend, which
Hmm.
is healthy. Most people don't do that. They move forward before they go backwards.
Yeah.
So take me back to the beginning or take me back to where you started this thought process and then just let them talk and you'll see how fast you get there.
Can't wait to use that. Such, yes, because that's exactly where I want to be.
Yes,
I
I
want
can,
to start right there. Like,
but they
I,
don't know that. But
yeah,
you'll, we're terrible storytellers, by the way. As much
yes.
speaking training as we've had, we're terrible storytellers. So the job of the listener is to organize the speaker, not the other way around.
Oh, well, tell us now about the listening path. You've gone into it a little bit with the compass, but what, I guess, what led you into building the listening path and what is it? How do we access it? All of those things.
Sure. Well, I learned to listen differently at a very young age. I can remember as early as 5, and my mother suffered from mental health issues stemming from a early childhood loss. She lost her mother from childbirth, and so she had pain beneath the surface most people didn't see. So I learned to listen differently in pretty profound way as a child, and great burden in that, but more gift. Trust me. So I've always wanted to help impart kind of this skill. And working with adults and honing the language, we built a game and different ways to make listening very tangible. I realized it was now possible to teach children. We figured out how to unlock that. And I also knew we needed the teachers to scale the mission because there are aid in changing the world one listener at a time. So what we've created is an 11 lesson series where we have a cartoon. I'm animated. Christine comes in and teaches the kids the story of the listening path and the tools on the path so that they can learn the way the tools work and the teachers can facilitate the learning in the classroom and reinforce the tools and behaviors. So they create this common language. And we did that in 2 ways. There's the lessons are everything's there for them, teacher's guide, task cards, how to use it in the classroom, a parent caregiver guide to go home with every lesson. So the parents are educated, as well as how to use it at home. So they're practicing again systemically. The kids get a passport where every time they go on a listening adventure, they get a sticker. So when the teachers or school license the program, not only do they get the materials online, but they get this backpack full of prizes sent to them so
Yeah.
that they listening ever present in the classroom. So here's just some of the things that they get. So they can put all the tools and all the lessons on the wall and in the experience of the classroom to reinforce the learning.
I love it so much. So teachers can buy like a single license, I guess, for their classroom, but schools can also purchase a school license.
Right, that's right.
I
And they
love
can preview the program by going onto the listeningpath.com and just click on the educator link and then about the program, and they can demo the first lesson. Here's the passport for the kids. So with each lesson, they get a new tool and they get a sticker in their passport. So they learn about the backpack, the map, all the different tools. And it's 11 series so that it can be done over a 12-week period to spread out through the entire school year.
Oh, I love that so much. I've linked the Listening Path website below here, so you can go check that out. I've also linked the Listening Path's Instagram and the Facebook page as well, so you can click and go to learn more, or maybe just kind of stalk a little bit before you make a final decision. But everything is linked below here. Um, that's awesome. And you can try the first lesson for free. And that's on the homepage? I'm
It's on
looking.
the classroom program homepage. So if you go about the program, you can link it right there. You can see there's a demo and you can
Okay.
see the demo. People just have to put in their name and address. There, we're not, this is not a hard sell. This is an invite. The reason is that we license it in the US and Canada, so we have to validate that you're an applicable user, which is why you have to sign in to do the demo.
Got you. I'm going to link it here.
And I'd like to offer something to your audience. We launched this in October, and we have several schools that we're working with, and we'd like to get some more. So I'd
Yeah.
like to offer a free opportunity to one of
Yeah.
your listeners. If somebody's interested, first one to touch base, they can reach out on the listening path. And if they want to partner with us, we will donate the classroom program and work in partnership with them to roll it out, get their feedback, and let us know what they think. So they can license it, or we can, if they want to be one of our partners in that process, then we'd be happy to provide that at no cost.
Awesome. I love it. Well, all of the links that you need for the listing path are below. I pulled the preview the program link so you can click that link. And then if you just scroll down just a little bit, the very first image there says preview the program. So you can do the demo there. What grades I see this is it says grades 3 to 5. Is that the intended audience 3 to 5,
Yes.
or can
For
you
this
span
year.
it younger, older?
For next year, we'll do first to fifth grade.
Okay.
And then later we're going to go to high school, middle school and high school and above. We have a
Okay.
game that's not quite ready yet to go prime, waiting for the patent. But right now the sweet spot is third to fifth grade.
Okay.
So, and again, next year, 2025, it'll be first to fifth grade.
Love it. Love it. Well, what is your best piece of advice for teaching students these important listening skills?
So the first thing is really, and even if you just watch the first video to, educators, it'll help you. So the more you build your own skill, the better you're going to be at helping them learn the skill. And it's not their fault they don't know how to do that because we've been told. So, but telling doesn't work. I've said this a lot in my career. If telling people what to do only worked, then we would be in a lot easier paradigm. So
Yeah.
we really have to shift to how do we help them learn how to do it because it's interesting for them versus
Right.
just pay attention. So the first step is really to figure out whether it's this or something else, how to create a common language around it.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that a lot. Well, now you've got my brain thinking. I'm like, oh, yeah, like how all of these different lessons, like how do we get, oh man, my brain's going to go in so many different places once we're finished here.
Well, and I think the work you're doing, if I get it and I get you, is you're really listening to the constituents around the child, and saying, let's not just throw something at it. Let's understand what their unique needs are. So you're really finding a way through your process to listen to all the information to make the right decisions, what really makes that IEP unique, if I get you.
Yeah.
The same is true in every conversation. How do
Right.
I dial into that? It's hard because we've made it hard. It can be a lot simpler. So I appreciate, like I said, I think we're very aligned in what the mission is
Yes.
to create a common understanding.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Christine, for being here, sharing your knowledge, introducing the listening path to us. If we wanted to, well, I know we have the links below and everything, but if we wanted to reach out, is the listening path website the best place to do so? Is there an email that we can reach out?
Sure. They
And where
can
else can we find you online?
Yeah, they can reach out on the listening path.
Okay.
My email address is cmiles@thelisteningpath.com. Don't hesitate to, if you have a question, you want to talk, to let me know. I'm happy to talk. And you can also find me at Christine Miles Listens. I do a lot of speaking at conferences to businesses and so forth. So that's another way to find me, both on social and on my personal website.
Awesome. I will link those as well below this training so you have access to all of the listening path, but also Christine Miles listens as well. Again, thank you so, so much, Christine, for
Yeah.
being here, sharing your knowledge and expertise. I'm excited to share this program and just more about teaching listening skills with all of the teachers here and the parents and the other providers and professionals that work with kids. I think this is such a valuable lesson just for everyone in general to learn more about ourselves, but also how we can then in turn teach and help our students listen more and better, I guess, is what is what we're aiming for here.
Amen. Yes, more and better. You're already probably good. We want to help and this takes a village, like we talked
Yeah.
about. So this is why teachers should not be in this alone. This is why you need the parents to understand the same language so that even your meetings with them can take on a different tone and way of communicating.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so, so much, Christine. Again, thank you so much for being here to learn more about taking or not taking, but I guess teaching yourself listening skills and taking what you're learning and teaching your students or your own kids those listening skills. We will see y'all in the next training.